I'm a North Carolina native. I grew up in Wilson, North Carolina. I came to Raleigh 52 years ago. School dropped out of me. I flunked out of Atlantic Christian and came to Raleigh, got married, and went to school here at Wake Tech. Back then it was WW Holding. Got out of there, tried to get a job. Couldn't get a job because I was 1A. Even though I was married, I was 1A. And they kept saying, we'd love to hire you, but see me when you get out. So I went down and joined the Army to get it on out of the way, because I talked to a recruiter who told me that if I joined for 4 years, he never bothered to tell me I could have volunteered for 2 years. If I joined for 4 years, I could choose my school and my location after I got out of school. So I signed up for engineering since I just got out of drafting school at Wake Tech. Went to Fort Bragg for basic training. From there I went to Fort Belvoir, Virginia, engineering school, and then I got orders for Vietnam. And when I questioned about why I had orders for Vietnam, when I had a contract that said Germany, they said, well, you joined for 4 years. This year you're going to Vietnam, and maybe when you come back, we'll send you to Germany. And I know the recruiter wouldn't have lied. So I know my ticket for Germany has been lost in the mail now for about 48 years. I'm looking forward to any time now. When I get home today, I'm gonna go straight and look for that mailbox because I know it's coming yet.
What was it like when you found out you were going to Vietnam? How'd you tell your family?
Well, it was the hardest thing in Fort Belvoir. I called my wife and told her I was going to Vietnam. That was hard to do. I didn't really know a whole lot about the Vietnam War, other than it was war and people getting shot. I didn't know where it was, anything about it. I tried to look it up in an atlas, and the atlas I had was an old atlas, said it was French Indochina, so I still couldn't find it. And then somebody told me that was one and the same. So they decided that they gave me specialized training since I was going to Vietnam. So the bus pulled up one day at Fort Belvoir, Virginia. Myself and one other guy got on the bus. We went to Fort Lee, Virginia, went out to the rifle range. They gave me an M16. I shot 2 clips, gave them the rifle back. They said, you're now trained. And I went back to Fort Belvoir, Virginia. And then I boarded the plane at Raleigh Airport, flew to California, and got on a military plane there. The plane that didn't have panels on the wall, when he made a turn, you could see the cables move. My flight attendant was a loadmaster. He was not cute at all. So we flew there, and the plane had problems, so we landed at Wake Island in the middle of a monsoon at night, and then we got up the next day. They worked on the plane some more, and we left there and went to Guam, where they worked on the plane some more. When I left the United States, I had orders for Pleiku, which is in the Central Highlands of Vietnam. We actually landed in Bien Hoa Air Base right outside of Saigon at 90 replacement. I was a private E1, which is not much lower, it would be a slug. As I got off the plane, I got chosen for KB. So that's my first 12 hours in Vietnam. I was peeling potatoes and washing dishes at 9th replacement. Now, when you get to 9th replacement, we're almost dressed like we are right now, just a khaki uniform, no weapons, no helmet, no nothing. They don't give you any of that stuff till you get to your assignment. They didn't tell me where the bunkers were, if we went under attack. They didn't tell me anything besides go peel those potatoes and wash those dishes good. First thing I saw as it got dark, I saw these red lines coming out of a helicopter, and then I saw these green lines going back. And I asked the guy, when people had been there for a while, what's that? He said, oh, well, that's where the ammo dump is, and those red lines are the helicopters shooting tracers at the bad guys. Well, what's the green line? That's the bad guys shooting back at they use green. I never have figured out who decided the color code there. And then I found out that then the next time I saw somebody off to the side, the same thing, and I asked, hey, don't worry about that, that's the fuel dump. I'm sitting there with a place that I don't know anything about. In a war I don't know a whole lot about, and they're telling me they're shooting at ammo and they're shooting at that's not what I had in mind. But doing basic training, my drill sergeant used to tell me I was the sorriest blanket he'd ever seen. And I knew he didn't know what to talk about because he kept telling me my first day in Vietnam, a little short guy in black pajamas was going to blow my sorry blank away. But I knew for a fact that in Germany there were no little short guys. So I didn't pay a whole lot of attention to him. When we got on the bus to go to 90th replacement from Benware Air Base, I noticed that the bus was covered, the windows were covered in screen wire. Being somewhat the smart A that I have been most of my life, I went up to the driver and says, "Where are we going to escape to?" It's like a prison bus. He said, "No, stupid. It's so when we go through towns, they can't throw grenades in the window." I knew that was a little different than North Carolina. In fact, I grew up in North Carolina where I'd worked in tobacco, heat and humidity. When that plane door opened and the humidity and the smells of Vietnam came in, I knew I was not North Carolina. I mean, I knew that was a strange place. The smells of Vietnam are unique. Heat and humidity are very unique. And as we ride down the bus, I looked out and lo and behold, everybody I saw were little short guys wearing black pajamas. So all the drill sergeant had told me doing basic came back to me, how do you tell the good guys and the bad guys? So again, I went up to the bus driver and said, how do you tell the good guys and the bad guys? He said, it's simple. If they point a rifle at you, they're probably bad guys. That was my extra training for Vietnam. And then I was actually was called up and I went and interviewed for a job. Just like the United States, I had to go interview for a job at Long Bend, which was right next between 90th Replacement and Benware Air Base. And I was picked up there by the 1-5 Engineer Group, 23rd Engineer Brigade, headquarters company, as a draftsman. So actually, my job was to sit in an air-conditioned office and draw pictures. But since I was a headquarters company, I had to do a lot of charts because the generals like their briefings every day, and I had charts of charts. And I didn't particularly like charts. Being a country boy, I wanted to see the country. So I started volunteering to go out when I could. One of my first jobs was to ride in the back of a Jeep. So if you went through a village and you threw a grenade in the back of the Jeep, my job was to get the grenade out so that the captain and his driver couldn't get to it. So that was one of my jobs. And then I started going out when we were working on the road. So I went out with the 9th Infantry guys as engineers and so forth. We always, when we went out to in the jungle walking or whatever, we always took the 9th Infantry guys with us to look out us because we didn't have no sense to look out there. So I got to see a lot of that area around Saigon. Long Beach was 22 miles away. I got to see a lot of Vietnam from a Jeep, armored personnel carrier, walking. I never rode in a helicopter the whole time I was there. I'm one of the few people I've ever met that went to Vietnam and never got in a helicopter. Long Binh had 55,000 troops, largest military installation in the world at the time. Had UNCTV headquarters, which was a 2-story, highly air-conditioned complex, United States Army Republic of Vietnam headquarters there. And so we had that, and the 90-30 evac, the hospital was a good-sized hospital. So it was a large place, and it's also a very famous place was there. It's called LBJ, Long Binh Jail. And that's where you did not want to go. That's where they put American soldiers who had done something really bad to be there, because it was an awesome place. Even if it went on alert, a lot of times the lights wouldn't go out there. You could get killed in Long Binh Jail faster than you could be out in the jungle. It's a pretty bad place. So, but they had ammo dump there, had 11 square miles of ammo dump. They had aviation fuel right up from that. And like I said, had a lot of people there. I came down for R&R. Was married 3 years when I went to Vietnam. I was 23, I was an old guy. I met my wife in Hawaii. We spent the week there. And my wife today has a hard time talking about Vietnam because I left her in Hawaii. I flew back to Saigon. The next thing she sees on the news, the Tet Offensive of 1968 has started, Saigon. And she sees all the battles going on in Saigon. And then after that, she knows I'm going to Long Binh, and the next news she sees is the ammo dump at Long Binh blows up. Now, the whole 11 square miles didn't blow up, but just some pads. And then there's no news for about 3 weeks. We'd written each other every day, so there was no news at all for a long time. We didn't have Skype and cell phones and so forth then. So it was very hard on her, and because she told me when I went to Vietnam, if I got killed, she'd kill me. And to this day, she likes all the Vietnam guys that we associate with, but she didn't like to talk about the Vietnam. I've been back 3 times. She will not even think about going. Things like that symposium we did the other night, she won't go into those. I do a show twice a month called Lessons of Vietnam online, and she never watches those. So But she backs me. Anything I want to do as far as Vietnam, she backs me. She just don't want to be involved herself. So that's kind of my story there in a nutshell. But
what was it like when you were writing those letters back and forth? What was that like for you? Being able to at least have some sort of back home?
well, you know, the whole thing was other units today train as a unit and go over as a unit. We went over as replacements. I went over on that military plane where a lot of the guys went over on the Braniff and other folks, but we all went over individuals. You didn't know anybody. That's a lonely experience, getting on an airplane with 200 or so other men that you don't know anything about, going to a war you don't know a whole lot about, to a country you don't know a whole lot about. And even though I was surrounded by guys, there was people going all the time, people coming in all the time. It was very hard, very lonely, because I was married 3 years. It was very hard on her, it was very hard on me to be separated. In her instance, it was hard on her because she'd see on the news such and such a thing was going on. Long Binh had 55,000 troops. Something could happen on the other side of Long Binh, I might not even know about it. But her, anything was that where Long Binh was exactly where I was. So all she saw. I was in Vietnam during Martin Luther King's assassination when all the riots and stuff were going on back here. I was worried about her being back here. Even though Raleigh has not been a hotbed of protests and burnings and so forth, it was still back in this country. So I was worried about her here with what was going on, and she was worried about me over there. And most of the time, we're not anywhere close to being involved. So we did letters every day. She would send me boxes of cookies about once every month, packed with popcorn so it wouldn't break too bad. And I said at about 6 months, I went and met her in Hawaii. And so it was hard on her, it was hard on me with just watching the news back and forth. So.
What was your coming home? What was your welcome home and your return back to the States?
I'm not certain how much I didn't get a whole lot of mail from my family. They weren't big on writing letters and so forth. I did get one letter from my father one time, which surprised me because he never wrote a letter. All the mail I got was from my wife. She met me at the Rotterdam airport, just her. And then the next day we went back to my hometown in Wilson, and it was like I hadn't left. It's like, where you been? I hadn't seen you in a while. Well, I was in Vietnam. Oh, and that's kind of how it went. Now I was still in the military. It's not like I had to go out and find a job or associate with civilians. I left here and went to Fort Hood, Texas, where I was stationed there, and I'm surrounded by. They had so many returning veterans at Fort Hood, Texas. I'd gone from a private E1 to a sergeant E5 while I was in Vietnam. So I came home as an E5, and there were so many E5s at Fort Hood, Texas, they didn't know what to do with us. In fact, the major I worked for used to ask me, "Don't you need a weekend pass?" I'm going, "Why? I'm off anyway." So I was surrounded by military and a lot of Vietnam vets at the time. So it wasn't like coming back cold turkey into civilian life. Where other guys came back from shooting one day and being back home the next day, asking mother to pass the blanket of blank potatoes, because we had very colorful language in Vietnam. And you came back and you're so used to it, you could use that language and not realize what you were saying, that people back here were, what are you doing? What are you saying? It's just because you changed so fast. But luckily I was around still military at the time. So we could get together and laugh about some of the things we used to say and how we said it and so forth, because I was still there. So I had that decompression that a lot of Vietnam vets didn't have at the time. And basically, you didn't tell a whole lot of people you're a Vietnam vet anyway at that time. When I came home, it was suggested we didn't wear our uniforms. I couldn't understand it. I mean, I've been out fighting for my country, and I was proud of my uniform. I was proud of what I did. I'm still proud of what I did in Vietnam. I wouldn't have gone if they hadn't told me I had to go, but I did a good job when I was there. I worked hard. I did what they told me and then some. I have no regrets of what I did over there. It was a war. So when I came back, I was shocked that everybody I saw on the news A lot of them weren't Vietnam vets, but they had a flag, had field jackets on, looked like they hadn't had a bath in 6 months. Usually carrying a POW flag. They didn't know what it meant, but they were carrying one, and the news said, "Look at these Vietnam vets." If something happened, it wasn't that he was a Baptist, it wasn't he was that, it was a Vietnam vet. Vietnam vet got drunk and shot some people. Vietnam vet done this. Vietnam vet drug addicts. So when we come home, we were baby killers thanks to John Kerry. We were drug addicts and everything else thanks to the news and so forth. So you couldn't tell anybody you were a Vietnam vet. In fact, I worked for a company for years. We bought property together, a lake, and they never knew I was a Vietnam vet because it's just not something you talked about. It took me a long time. North Carolina Vietnam Veterans Incorporated used to have a booth out at the State Fair. And for years, I would walk by off in the distance and look at them and go, they look normal. They look like me, not like these guys on TV. So it was probably close to 30 years before I actually walked up and shook out my hand and said, I'm a Vietnam vet. I walked by that booth, stood off in the distance and looked at it. And for a long time before I realized that they just like me and joined the organization. And I see people today, Vietnam veterans even today, who kind of stand off and I say, are you a Vietnam vet? And they kind of stutter a little bit, and most of the time that they are, they will, yes, I'm a Vietnam vet. Still today, a lot of Vietnam vets don't want to talk about the war, and they say they don't want to talk about it. Vietnam, they're in Vietnam every day. It never leaves them. By getting together with other Vietnam vets and laughing and joking about some of the things that were funny at the time, it's been a healing process. Going into schools and speaking has done so much more for the vets, because you talk to these kids and we have this course that we've developed, and it's about 3,000 schools nationwide now. We actually carry it to Vietnam. I've been back to Vietnam 3 times. All of this has been such a healing process. It's I like learning anyway, so going back and seeing what's going on over there, talking to kids here, it's been a healing process. So now I'm proud to be a Vietnam vet. It still blows me away. There's so many people out there that complain, who say they're Vietnam vets, who couldn't find it on the map. It's like the census said there was a little less than 3 million of us served in Vietnam. The last census listed 13 million people as Vietnam vets. We had a member who said he had the Silver Star, he had all kinds of Purple Hearts and so forth, and he was in the Marines. He would serve this tour in Vietnam. Come to find out, he didn't have any of that stuff. He did serve in the Marines in the band, stateside. So even we get fooled sometimes by people who claim to be Vietnam vets. Any of them could have gone in my place if they wanted to. I would have gone, let me get out of your way so you can take my place, because I was still waiting for Germany. So I am disappointed with the people who claim, the wannabes who claim to be a Vietnam vet, because like I said, they could have gone in my place. My wife would have been much happier. But I'm proud that I did go and did my job. So, and I'd go do it again, even though I know it was a dumb way we fought the war was dumb. I have a lot of friends here that are Vietnamese who fought in the South Vietnamese military. And every time I go to a function, the people come up and thank me for fighting for their country. Even though the United States sold Vietnam out, the United States government sold the Vietnamese people out with the peace treaty they signed. Kissinger and Dixon just sold them out for political reasons. We walked off and left them. Some of these guys that are friends of mine here, when Saigon fell, they fought for another 30 days. They did not turn their weapons in. They ran out of food, ran out of ammunition. They went from machine guns to 10 years in slave labor camps. And they appreciate what we did, and we appreciate what they did. And so there's a good relationship with the Vietnamese community here. There's about 17,000 live in the Wake County Triangle area of Vietnamese. And of course, the Montagnards are real popular here. With there's two tribes of Montagnards here, the mountain people of Vietnam, and they live here. The Raid tribe is one. We helped through the Special Forces. We helped one of their young ladies graduate from the first one to graduate from law school at Campbell was the Montagnard. We helped get them food for a while. So most of this, our organization goes out to the community and does what they can with the Vietnamese community, and I go to events with them. Sometimes I'm kind of embarrassed. If I go to one of the funerals and so forth, they want us to sit up front in special honorary seats because we're honoring them. They want to honor us. The POW ceremony that we do each month, Saturday each month for 30 years, the Vietnamese Buddhist community brings a big bowl of fruit and so forth to honor those missing and on their travels. Being most of them are Buddhists, they appreciate what we did for their country, even though they lost it. But
Did you ever make it to Germany?
no, that's the reason I'm waiting for my ticket to come in. I know it's coming. I have yet to make it to Germany. Been back to Vietnam 3 times, building playgrounds for kids over there, but have never been to Germany. And want to go back to Vietnam one more time before I get too old. That flight's a killer.